U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is cutting short his trip to Southeast Asia after a member of his delegation tested positive for COVID-19. Before canceling meetings in Thailand, VOA senior diplomatic correspondent Cindy Sain reports the secretary highlighted concerns about the worsening situation in Myanmar.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with his Malaysian counterpart, Foreign Minister Saifuddin Abdullah, before announcing he would not be able to hold meetings in Thailand as planned out of an abundance of caution. The U.S. Embassy in Kuala Lumpur said a member of the delegation tested positive for COVID-19 and that Blinken and the rest of the group would be traveling home. The February military coup in Myanmar was high on the agenda for talks Wednesday, with Blinken saying the situation in the country has gotten much worse since the coup. He condemned violence against protesters and said the U.S. is considering more sanctions on Rangoon's military junta.
I think it's going to be very important in the weeks and months ahead to look at what additional steps and measures we can take individually, collectively, to pressure the regime to put the country back on a democratic trajectory.
Blinken repeated his calls for the junta to immediately release all political prisoners, including democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Myanmar would also have been a critical issue of talks in Thailand, expert Brian Harding told VOA, because of its common border with Myanmar, formerly known as Burma.
Thailand has more influence in Myanmar, both in the capital with the military junta and also on the borderlands where the ethnic armed organizations within Myanmar are located and the National Unity Government, the democratic representatives. I think the issue of humanitarian assistance across the border, COVID vaccines, the situation with internally displaced people, the situation in Myanmar since the coup in February 1st has really had negative impacts for Thailand. There are people, drugs, crime flowing across the border.
Blinken began the Asia part of the trip in Indonesia, where he called on China to stop what he characterized as aggressive actions in the South China Sea and the region. Harding said countries in the Indo-Pacific are watching the tensions between China and the U.S. with concern.
They worry about the deterioration of U.S.-China relations, whether it could lead to active conflicts, such as in the South China Sea. And so Southeast Asian countries like to see the United States and China talking. They're okay with a healthy competition, but there is concern that things could spiral downward in an uncontrollable way.
As frequent confrontations with Chinese vessels continue in the disputed South China Sea, Blinken made clear the U.S. wants to ensure people and countries in the region have the freedom to decide on their own futures and partners. Cindy Sain, VOA News.